Oh, yeah. You know, when it's breaking news, we got to get to it, man. We've been all over the place. We've been on UCSS. We've been on the barbershop. But now I had to get my brother on. Earl the Pearl, it broke early. He hit me up. He said, we got to talk about it. I said, why not just go ahead and do that Ultimate Browns right now? So we're going to get that going. We're going to get to it. We're going to get his thoughts on the reaction to Kevin Stefanski. Jimmy Haslam spoke today. Andrew Berry spoke today. And we're going to get right to it like we always know how to do it on the fastest 30 minutes in all the sports. It's the Ultimate Browns. Welcome on into the fastest 30 minutes in the sports. G. Bush, Earl the Pearl. We got some breaking news. Kevin Stefanski out as head coach. We heard from Jimmy Haslam. We heard from Andrew Berry. But before we start anything, we got to let you know this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get into the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making a late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when the first $5 bet wins. So head on over to FanDuel.com/UCSS to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Earl, you heard the breaking news this morning. I'm going to give you the floor. What is your reaction to Kevin Stefanski being let go as the Cleveland Browns head coach?
Well, first, man, shout out to the audience. Shout out to everybody that's watching the Ultimate Brown Show. Make sure you like, subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show YouTube page. And Happy New Year to you, bro. First content of the year for me, doing it with my big bro. So let's get to it. My initial reaction was I wasn't shocked. You know, when we did the post game show yesterday, I kind of said somewhere between 9 p.m. yesterday and sometime this morning, I kind of expected to hear the news that Kevin Stefanski will be relieved of his duties. It's something that I quite honestly agree with. I think that, and I told you this, that I kind of felt Jimmy Haslam kind of threw out, the full body of work when it came to Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. He kind of took some stuff on the chin when it came to the Deshaun Watson acquisition and things like that, and basically told him like, "Hey, listen, both of y'all got the 2025 season to prove to me that you should be a part of this organization moving forward." And so when you consider what I believe his approach was, what have you done for me lately? It boiled down to Andrew Berry did more than Kevin Stefanski, this past season, to keep his job. And, I was a huge fan of Kevin Stefanski being the coach of this team for a very long time. And I think after last year, I had totally soured on that. I was somebody who wanted both of them gone last year. It didn't work out this year. So with new information, here we are. I thought for a long time now that his message had grown sour in the locker room. I felt like the philosophy had grown stale. I felt like for him to be an offensive minded head coach, it just seemed like the Browns offense was never something that really had a true identity. And we could never like we was behind the 8 ball when it came to evolution. This is the Cleveland Browns offense that barely had over 4,000 yards total this season, ranking in the bottom 6 or 7 in the entire NFL. And you can't win like that. 45 and 56 over 101 regular season games, 8 and 26 over the last 2 years. That's not enough to get the job done. And so when you consider it, you heard what Jimmy Haslam said. He feel like, in his opinion, that the Cleveland Browns roster was talented enough to get more wins than what they ended up with. Some people might hear Jimmy and say, "Man, you done lost your damn mind," or "You crazy." Or if you kind of dig into the minutia of it, I mean, think about the Jets game, right? If it wasn't for some of those penalties, which to me, stuff like that kind of like falls in that's a coaching thing. Do we lose that game? Tennessee Titans game. Can we really sit here and like definitively say that the Titans got a better roster than the Browns? Another game you should have won, right? The first game of the season against Cincinnati. Granted, the kicker missed a kick, but there's so many different games we can go to and say, okay, like coaching errors or mismanagement of clock, whatever the case may be, led to the Browns not winning this game, whether it be by Kevin Stefanski or one of his coordinators that he hired.
You know, the thing, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we didn't even get into a lot of this stuff. You know, we could talk about back and forth about what, you know, the players and the different things like that and who did they get and whatever the case may be. But it's also upon the coach and the coaching staff to develop. And we never delve into the development. And one thing that no one can give me a straight answer on, Earl, is last year, not this year. Forget Shedeur Sanders. You take him out of the mix. When Deshaun Watson got hurt, the Browns were 1-something. I believe 1-5. It was 6 games into the season. My question is, you're the offensive coordinator. At that point, there was no reason to turn the playbook over. If you're the offensive coordinator and Jameis Winston was even confused by saying, hey, I came here to be coached under you. Like, when he didn't even let him know that, he was just like, hey, the playbook's turned over. The times where DTR is saying, I didn't even know if I was playing this week. I didn't know. Those are the things that people are trying to skim over, which are unacceptable. How does your rookie not know he's playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers? We talk about the time management things. And I get the fact that people are drilling down on, okay, well, Andrew Berry's the last man standing. He going to get a lot of energy and attention. We'll get to that coming up in the later segments. But when it comes to clock management, development, communication, and actually what the offense was doing, who did he have a great relationship with that you said, Earl, oh, wow, he loves playing in this offense? Where were the guys that come to his aid to say, oh, I love this? It wasn't Odell or Jarvis. It wasn't Baker. It wasn't Deshaun Watson. Who did he get the most out of in this besides a couple of games he got with Joe Flacco? And even Joe Flacco was excited to go to Cincinnati. So those are some of the things that you can't skate around.
No, you can't, right? And I think it's like so many different layers to it, because the reality of the situation is this. Kevin Stefanski has had more success than any Cleveland Browns head coach since the Browns have returned in 1999. His even keel demeanor, you know, it worked until it didn't. The way he went about things, it worked until it didn't. And, you know, I think looking back, it's easy to kind of like have this 2020 hindsight, but there was things that kind of showed itself as issues early on in his coaching tenure, and we kind of either swept it under the rug or ignored it, or chose to give Kevin Stefanski grace because these things are happening 1 or 2 years into your coaching tenure. And I was never one who wanted to make a determination after 1 or 2 seasons. 4 seasons, cool. I came to the conclusion after season number 5 that I was done with it, right? So I felt like I kind of gave it more time than most. Some people wanted him going after the second year, but I can say I was wrong when it came to a lot of things. You know, going back to the early parts of his tenure here with Odell Beckham and Baker Mayfield, you know, I was blaming everybody else for the issues except for Kevin Stefanski. I thought we had a Baker Mayfield issue. I really thought at some points maybe we do got an Odell Beckham issue. But the reality of it, it looks like we had a Kevin issue the entire time. You go back to Baker gets hurt, and we know his offense has never been one to kind of like dial up passes down the field. But all of a sudden, you got a quarterback with a bump shoulder, and because of whatever like pettiness that is living inside of you, you calling up plays that you know Baker can't execute. Or when Baker was coming out telling the media, you know, he makes the decision on if he's going to play week to week or not. Like, that's not showing that you had control of the situation. You fast forward to when we get Deshaun Watson. We heard from plenty of people, including our own Jason Lloyd, when he wrote the article, how Kevin and Deshaun sat there with a tablet going over the offense and how they both said it was a perfect match. Well, clearly somebody in that situation lied. And then you fast forward even more. You know, it came out, I think, at the end of last season that some players really felt like he handled Deshaun Watson different than he handled anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that right there will compromise your integrity with your football team. And once you do that as a head coach and you're not winning, it's really hard to try to sell, you know, whatever philosophy you're trying to sell to these players. So to me, I felt like it was just time for a change. And then, this is something that I had thought about earlier this season. If you just look at the modern era of NFL head coaches, can you think of a head coach who won a Super Bowl with said organization after 7 years? It
Yeah,
seems like there's 6 or 7 year window for coaches who even make it that long with said team. If they don't win the Super Bowl with that organization within the first 7 years, how likely is it that that gets done? Right. And so you got to think about it. If he was to be retained, well, that's going into year 7. We don't believe that the Cleveland Browns is nowhere near being able to compete for a Super Bowl. And so I just think some fresh blood, some fresh energy on the head coaching front will do this team some justice.
Yeah, I think, in kind of closing out this first segment, I think there's a level of, a lot of people don't like change. Change is something that, is scary to people. And I get the fact that you don't know if you're going to be able to get the next coach that are going to be more successful than the one you had. There's no guarantees to that. There's also, you got to rebuild relationships, whether you're in the media or whether or not you're a quarterback that used to coach, or Kevin Stefanski, was your head coach. All those things are true, but I'm interested to see what a young, fresh set of eyes has for this offense and what they could be about. And those are the things that I think we're going to find out. We'll be talking about it throughout the time on UCSS, and we'll continue to talk about it because it's going to be one heck of a ride, Earl, when it comes to finding out what we're going to do at coach, finding out what's going on. Speaking of, Jimmy Haslam kind of outlined some of the things that we talked about in this situation. And we outlined some of these things we was talking to, and I think he laid out why Andrew Berry is here and Kevin is not. We'll come back and talk about that right here on the Ultimate Browns. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players are showing up in the biggest moments, and how could tracking their trends help you build your next big bet? What would it look like to combine live prop bets mid-game based on how action unfolds? How could a $200 bonus in bonus bets add to the excitement if your first $5 bet hits? New to FanDuel? It's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com/UCSS and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Ultimate Browns. I got Earl the Pearl in the building, special guest. Make sure you're watching UCSS, subscribe to the channel, and as always, make sure you're hitting that like button and subscribing and checking out the Ultimate 216. Earl over there doing good work. Make sure you log in and get right to what we're doing, because we got breaking news coming all over the place. Yeah, I know it's Tuesday, or we usually do it on Tuesday, but we got Monday. Breaking news: Kevin Stefanski let go by the Cleveland Browns. Jimmy Haslam had some thoughts on it today, and I do believe, if I can pull this up, I have the screenshot of what he said. Now, obviously, we can't play nothing, but I do have the screenshot of what they talked about, and I'll read that off for you guys here. Let me pull this up a little bit. We got to take some things down. All right, here we go. This is a statement from D and Jimmy Haslam. We have tremendous gratitude for Kevin's leadership of the Cleveland Browns over the last 6 seasons. He's a good football coach and even better person. We appreciate all his hard work and dedication to our organization, but our results over the last 2 seasons have not been satisfactory. We believe a change at the head coaching position is necessary. We wish Kevin, Michelle, and Stefanski family all the best in the future. Andrew will continue to lead our football operations. The entirety of our focus is on building a team that brings our fans the success they long deserve, and we will continue to work relentlessly towards the goal and invest whatever resources necessarily to build a winning football program. Andrew will immediately begin our thorough process to find out an outstanding new head coach and leader of our football team. We have an exciting young core to build upon, and Andrew and his team are intent on adding talent to the core and building out our roster that can achieve sustainable success. That was from the official statement from D and Jimmy Haslam that was on the Browns network earlier today. Now, Earl, when we take a look at, what D and Jimmy had to say in regards of what was going on with this, what are your thoughts? And I do believe they mentioned the young core. And we had talked about it, and a lot of people didn't really take heed to it. There was pushback, but we talked about how much the Haslams specifically talked about the young core and how they showed up and showed out this year. And that was one of the main contributors of why Andrew Berry was still in his role.
Yeah, I think Jimmy gave a pretty extensive answer as to why he made the choice to move on with Andrew Berry in his same role. And I think the primary reason was, he had a phenomenal draft class, right? And Jimmy actually alluded to, we got 4 guys out this class that he believed he can take to the bank as cornerstones of this franchise moving forward. Those guys being Mason Graham, Carson Schlesinger, Harold Fannin Jr. and Quinshawn Judkins. And so you take that, right? And then you couple that with the fact Andre Schmidt, another rookie, that he signed. Rough first game of the year, but the Browns look like they might have a kicker. You look at Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond probably is not your wide receiver 2 or 3, but he's a solid wide receiver 4 with the right offensive mind and in the right system. The boy got some wheels, and we seen what he can do there. So you add those 2 guys on to what he did as far as the draft class, right? You look at the trade that he made with the Jacksonville Jaguars to acquire another number 1 pick. They get you 2 number 1s in the 2026 draft. Then you go back to Jacksonville and you make the trade for Tyson Campbell, who was a flat out dog once he figured out, what Jim Schwartz's system was. You look at the offseason moves of signing Malik Collins and even a decision to re-sign a guy like Devin Bush. It just seemed like Andrew Berry more often than not checked boxes. Now, did he spend a lot of resources when it came to the wide receiver position? And did he spend the best resources on the offensive line? I think the Browns signed 2 linemen during the free agency period. But, you got to ask yourself, like, outside of that, did he spend a lot of resources on that side of the ball? The answer is no. And I thought Andrew Berry did a pretty good job of laying that out during this press conference that, like, listen, you can't fix everything that's wrong with a football team in one offseason. And so with that being the case, he made the choice to spend his resources on the defensive side of the ball. And he said it today, if not all, the majority of the resources will be spent on the offensive side of the ball this year. So I'm not making it seem like that he had an absolute, 10 for 10 offseason, but he checked more green boxes than he didn't. And for Jimmy Haslam, that was enough for him to move forward. And it's funny because he was also asked, he being Andrew Berry, is there anybody that's going to, assume the role of Paul DePodesta? And he said no. And I got to thinking about paid in full. Remember when they was I think they was in the skating rink, this was after Ace put Calvin on and Calvin came back and was like, I see you got this little man out here running my block. Kind of remind me of you back in the day. But the truth is I don't need him. I think after a while, that's how they played out with Paul DePodesta's situation. Right. I think all along, Andrew Berry was the one that probably had Jimmy's ear the strongest and probably told Jimmy on some backdoor channel, like, look, your man cool and all, but I don't really need him to do my job. And you seen the instant results because it do look like from afar, the draft strategy or however they went about things was different. And so, I did think it was going to be some type of restructure of the infrastructure. I kind of thought that like AB will promote himself or get promoted to Paul's role and maybe, promote one of the assistant GMs to GM. But it looks like they're going to stay right where they are, and Andrew Berry will lead the next search for the Cleveland Browns head coach.
You know what I think, and I'm going to just keep it a buck with you. I just said this a couple of seconds ago while I was on a podcast. I said, I think a lot of people might have gotten it misconstrued just using the paid in full notion, right? What I'm saying? Calvin went away and it was the man, right? And he came back And Ace is like, yo, I got an infrastructure. I got my own situation. And it's different now because I'm moving it, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's sometimes hard to go from being the dude that had the plug to now you buying work. Like, you know what I'm saying? You getting packs now. Like, you know what I'm saying? You the one got to go to the plug. And I think Andrew Berry moved like this because I used to ask people to see how they would react to it. I said, do you think Andrew Berry has the cachet that he can say out Kevin Stefanski, you're fired? And a lot of people said, well, I think kind of like they kind of lockstep. And I think a lot of people like actually believed at one point in time that Kevin Stefanski was ahead of where Andrew Berry was. And he was a guy that if it came down to it, Andrew Berry wasn't getting fired. He was reporting directly to Jimmy Haslam. And I think the dynamic changed when DePodesta left because people found out, oh, Andrew Berry is in charge. And when he made those statements and he said things today, Earl, I think he put it in a perspective where he's like, don't get it twisted. I'm still the general manager. And most organizations, coaches, they report to the general manager. And I think he made it clear today, and the Haslam's made it clear that he's the dude that is running the thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think that for a long time, in my opinion, I do think Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski was in lockstep. I think that they were in unison, and I think they were on the same page for the better part of that 6-year tenure that they were together. But something happened last year between the combine and the NFL draft with that front office that kind of like changed the tide. You know, I don't know how true it is, but I go back to the first thing that made me realize that they were no longer on the same page. And this is after years of just listening to Kevin Stefanski and how he goes about press conferences.
Mm-hmm.
It was the day or so after we traded Joe Flacco. He was asked something about overall the offense, and he volunteered the information without being asked about Joe Flacco. He said that I was shocked and surprised, something along those lines, that he was traded. And if you know Kevin is not really volunteering no information that nobody asked him for. So pinpoint that, you know, there very well could have been a situation to where Andrew Berry got the okay from Jimmy Haslam to trade Joe Flacco and didn't feel the need to even check in with Kevin Stefanski because the decision had already been made. And to me, that was just the first thing in a long list of things that started to maybe look at this situation like, okay, they no longer are tied to the hip. And one way or another, they are starting to kind of separate themselves because jobs is on the line. And these men got families and they have, you know, settled in Cleveland, Ohio as their home. Like they got grade school kids who's still in school and all that other good stuff. So, you know, a lot probably went into this situation behind the scenes. And I'm pretty sure over the weeks and months to come, more and more will come out about how we got to this point. It's just funny how not always how things start is how they end. Kevin Stefanski was hired before Andrew Berry. And so I can understand why a lot of people felt like if anybody was going to lose their job, it was going to be Andrew Berry. And, you know, there's been a lot of mixed opinions on how this thing should have played out. You know, you got some people who feel how they feel as far as both should have been gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got people who feel like Andrew Berry did enough to save his job and the right move was made. And you got other people who feel like, you know, Kevin should have stayed. And I guess like if the shoe was on the other foot, would those people be arguing that Andrew Berry should have stayed too? We'll never know.
I think this is a great point. And I think moving forward, when we get to the next segment, we're going to talk about it. Andrew Berry is in, Kevin is out. How long does that last for? Let's talk about expectations. We'll get to Shedeur Sanders and what that means for him and some of his comments. He made it very clear that, you know, they still going to evaluate the quarterback position inside and outside. We'll talk about what that means for the Cleveland Browns moving up in the draft. Shedeur Sanders, all the above. We'll do it coming next. It's G. Bush. It's Earl right here on the Ultimate Browns. Speaking of Earl the Pearl, make sure you're checking out my man Ultimate 216 right over here. You know, we got it going, man. Earl, he's over there. Shout out to Cecil. Shout out to the content over there. And make sure as always, you're gonna get to the Ultimate Browns. You know what it is. G Bush Ultimate Browns. We got the smorgasbord for you, man. We keep you in contact with everything. And don't forget, Ultimate Cavaliers, Cavs, they struggle a little bit, but make sure, you got the All-Star break coming up, trade deadline. Make sure you're checking out Jason Lloyd and Mikey McNuggets. And the only place you can get it is right here on the you know what it is. It's the UCSS network. Welcome back to the fastest 30 minutes of sports. G Bush back with the Ultimate Browns. Got a special guest in the building. Earl the Pearl of Ultimate 216 going over some of the breaking news. Kevin Stefanski is out. Andrew Berry's looking for the coaching search. Let's talk about Andrew Berry. Spoke a little bit. He said he was excited about some of the things Shedeur Sanders did, some of the growth, some of the stuff he showed in his accuracy. But he said he is going to do everything to find the guy, whether that's inside, outside the organization in terms of the quarterback position, and whether that's a veteran, whether that's what it's going to be. And we talked about it a little bit in overtime. Go back and check that out. Overtime is up for all the members, so check that out. We had a good conversation, me, Bull, and Jay. And I said, that's what you're supposed to say. I mean, listen, the Cleveland Browns are not in a position where they're guaranteeing nothing to nobody. And guess what? Like, I feel like that's the right avenue. I like what Shedeur Sanders did. I love some stuff. I think that he's put in a position to be in that mix in 2026. But for Andrew Berry, he did a good job in coming out and saying, hey, I like what you did. I want to see progress, because he made it be very clear. And I've already stated this too, Earl, that if Andrew Berry is coming back, he's going to have expectations. He's going to have a bullseye and a target on his back. And just because you had one draft class, because some people do believe that Andrew Berry should not be here and Kevin should have probably been here. So he's going to have expectations of dropping another draft class in with this. And he's going to have the quarterback position figured out, or they're going to go back in 27 to do it. What are your thoughts on the way he talked about the quarterback play and Shedeur Sanders and what he needs to do going forward to keep the job?
So I think what you said to start this is perfect. There's no guarantees. Everything is different now. Like today's situation changed everything. Only guarantee with the Cleveland Browns is 95, 21 at that, right? And if you want to name the four rookies or the four rookies that Jimmy Haslam spoke of today, you can count those as locks. But here's the reality of the situation. The Cleveland Browns made the decision to move on from Kevin Stefanski for a reason. And I think that we need to have a proper expectation as a media base and as a fan base of what that looked like. And that looks like very possibly that a lot of players on this team that was a part of what took place in 2025 might not be a part of the next head coach's plan in 2026. And if you are a fan of the Cleveland Browns, like if you rep the colors brown and orange, then I think that we owe it to whoever the incoming head coach to have some faith in whatever philosophy or whatever vision that he has. Because clearly the approach that has been taken up until now did not result in a winning culture long-term and or consistently, right? And so I think that Andrew Berry did a proper job of laying it out there for Shedeur Sanders. I feel like you and I feel like Andrew Berry, in my opinion, I think Shedeur Sanders showed a lot of progress in this rookie season when you consider every single circumstance, right? Dylan Gabriel did get first-team reps. He did not get first-team reps. He did not get first-team reps until he actually, took his first snap when he came in relief with the Baltimore Ravens. And if you go back to the preseason, you heard Andrew Berry talk about that it was trying to teach somebody how to speak like Mandarin fluidly. Well, at the end of his rookie season, I would say he ain't fluid, but he probably got the basics down of
he know what he know the rest. He know how to get on the bus now.
And so with that being said, I'll repeat what I said yesterday on the post-game show. Have I seen enough from Shedeur Sanders to lock him in as my long-term franchise quarterback? Absolutely not. But have I seen enough from Shedeur Sanders that I believe he should be given the opportunity to compete for the starting job in 2026? Yes. But with that being said, whoever the head coach is, If he comes in here and that is not the type of time he's on, then I got to get behind whatever the head coach feel is the best, like choice or avenue for the Cleveland Browns. Andrew Berry also said that he anticipates Deshaun Watson being on this roster in 2026, but he also said that even that's not a guarantee. And I think that what's the point of firing Kevin Stefanski if you're not going to allow the new head coach to have some say on who the next quarterback is for the Cleveland Browns, even if it's as early as 2026? That's just how I see it.
And if you Shedeur Sanders, I want all the smoke. Like, listen, if you Deshaun Watson, I want the smoke. We trying to see it. I listen. He done shown some great things. I was encouraged as heck. I thought he showed a lot of heart. I thought he showed what he can do, especially with the game-winning drive against the Bengals. And I think he did his part. I think when you talk about Shedeur Sanders, I think he talked about the heavy lifting. You could see he was kind of downtrodden a little bit. His spirit was kind of down. And I think that's just the pressure it takes when you a fifth-round pick and dealing with, I got to go deliver. So not only I got to go deliver 360, but I got to deliver under circumstances. I got to bring it back. And now the thing that everybody is going to see, like you said, Earl, you're going to have to reinvent yourself. Now it's a new relationship. Now you're going to have to impress the new coach. You're going to have to be in the office. You're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to be understanding what and not only just the head coach. We talk about coordinator, right? You see what I'm saying? These are all things. And what I don't want Andrew Berry to do, he called Shedeur in the office and said, listen, I like what you did this year. We got to get better. Because let me tell you, we both got targets on our back. We both, me and you, we ain't in no different situation. I got to deliver. You got to deliver. The new head coach got to deliver. So what we need you to do, you need to go decompress a little bit, but get right back to work. Wherever you need to be. You need to be establishing yourself in this offseason. You didn't get one last year. You got one this year. Make it the best one of your life because we don't know if we ever going to get another one.
Yeah, and I don't really feel like that, Shedeur Sanders is ignorant to that, right?
Nope.
Like he said it today.
Yep.
Rookie season is complete. Let's take some time away. After the time away, man, let's buckle down and let's get back to work. He knows the things that he needs to work on in order to continue to earn more opportunities to be the franchise quarterback. And I don't think he's going to shy away from that. But I cannot stress this enough that with the fact that we are going to be searching for a new head coach, that new head coach is going to have a lot of input on who he wants his starting quarterback to be for 2026. Now, input and the end result, that don't always equal out to be the same thing. The Brown salary cap situation is not the best, right? And it looks like that by all accounts, Jimmy Haslam is going to see this investment with Deshaun Watson all the way through to the end. And so that's Deshaun Watson already in the quarterback room. You got Shedeur Sanders coming off 7 starts in his rookie season to where he won more games than anybody else that started for the Browns this year. He's going to be in the play. And so with that, and I heard what you laid out earlier, you're absolutely right. In my opinion, it don't really make sense to draft another quarterback, but I'm not making those decisions because the offensive line is horrific. The wide receiver room is not the best. And you probably can use another running back to go behind Quinshon Judkins, right? I think Dylan Sampson shows some things, but I'm not really sure if that's the running back that's your long-term number 2 option, right? This is not giving Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt vibes. That's not what it's giving right now. So you got a lot of things that you need to address before you start going to pluck around for another quarterback. And just maybe you can get some coaches in here that specializes in player development and can get these guys together. Because, yeah, Shedeur got his issues. I'm somebody that I cannot stand turnovers. Turnovers make me cringe. And I got to go back at some point in the season and look at all of them because not every turnover is created equally.
Correct.
But my point in that is there have been so many quarterbacks that I have seen that are damn good quarterbacks now that struggled in that same department early on in their career, whether it be their first year or their second year or even their third year in the NFL. Some of them eventually figured it out and they're still in the league today and having success. Others just didn't get it figured out. I think Shedeur Sanders has the confidence and the work ethic to get that figured out. Will he be given that chance here? We don't know yet, right? We don't even know where they starting at with this head coaching search or anything like that, but that's how I see it.
Hey, listen, let's get to some super chats here. Let me put this up. Make sure we get to your comments. We got some super chats here. So the real Night King. So if the season goes wrong, do y'all think that this Barry last year as a GM? If so, who would you like to be the next GM? I can't even pick who these GM dudes is. It's different from coaches. Because when you talk about GM and different things like that, it has a lot. You can have a GM that's good at scouting. You have a GM that's good as a cap guy. You have a GM that got a lot of relationships. So for me, I do believe 2026 he's going to have to show market progress, because that's what Jimmy Haslam talked about. Is he thought they should have got more wins. Now we could say, I don't know what the roster you had, but he's going to have to say, and I think the biggest part is Earl. When it comes to the quarterback situation, he's gonna have to find that answer, whether or not he falls into it. Because here's the thing, that's the most important. Because after that, the new head coach or whoever it is, if they do keep this roster together in the quarterback room, will want his quarterback. If in all likelihood it don't turn out in 2026 the right way.
He did say it's too early to tell if this is Andrew Berry. It's too early to tell if the Browns quarterback for 2026 is internal or external or not. So, and he added on that whoever is the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns will have some say so in that decision. And I think anybody that cheers for the Cleveland Browns would agree with that, because what's the point of making a change if everything else is going to stay the same? This is not something that's a winning culture. Something is broken clearly. And so they're just trying to hire the right leader and partner, as he said, to steer this ship in the right direction.
Ms. Bell, Shador Sanders got the team to pull together, and not for Kevin Stefanski. They wanted to show their talents and not to be stuck in hungry dogs. Kevin Stefanski wasn't their inspiration. I think this Ms. Bell is going to be crazy, because what you're going to see is now I think I went through this when I was in college, when I had a new coach. And there were certain things that I loved about certain coaches, and then I hated about other ones. So when new coaches come in, they're going to get to it. They about to make sure that we're going to check it to look at this roster, and we're going to make sure that guys is getting to it. But there's going to be an advantage to some people because they might click, and it may be a disadvantage. So everybody got to be in their bag this offseason getting to it.
Remember when we did the watch party for the Steelers game, last home game of the year? And I think Mike asked us that same question, was this team pulling together and playing hard for Kevin Stefanski? And when I was driving home, I was listening to Myles Garrett when I think Mary Kay Cabot asked him that same question. And I thought Myles put it perfectly. They play hard for themselves. Like at some point, man, self-integrity has to show up, right? Like being a man and not wanting to embarrass yourself on tape when you out here doing your job, some of that got to play a part. These are like hyper competitive athletes, and winning is hard. And so that is a band of brothers in that locker room. And I do think that they play hard for each other. But more importantly than that, I think they played hard for themselves. They understood what type of time that this season was heading towards, right? That coaches could be fired and that roster changes was going to happen. And so why not play hard? Why not show some self-integrity? Why not go out there and put your best foot forward to put something quality on tape, whether it be for the next Browns head coach to say, hey, I want this person a part of my roster, or for somebody else that's watching afar and say, you know what, I can use a guy like that. And so I don't think it was ever about Kevin Stefanski to begin with. I think it was for each other, but more than that, I think it was for themselves.
I agree. I do a lot of podcasts. I don't do it for nobody else. Like, hey, me and Earl work together. We don't be like, I did this for Earl today. Nah, Earl did his show for Earl. Black acre, white acre. Competition equals a thorn in Shador's side. Godly humility. Listen, competition, I always tell people, listen, you're going to have to prove yourself over and over and over and over again. And when you think, hey, Josh Allen got something to prove. You got a lot of accolades, but you got that trophy yet. You always going to have to prove something.
So you know how I always say, man, iron sharpens iron as one person betters another. That is one of my, and I'm not somebody that really quotes the Bible, but that is one of my absolutely favorite verses in the Bible, because that means that when you are around healthy competition, it only pushes you to get better. That's not just in sports, but that's in real life. Iron sharpens iron as one person betters another.
Hey, DB Dog says the new head coach may want the job because of Shador. I think that is something. You know what's so crazy? I've thought that, and I never really articulated it. I like that you said it. We don't know what the head coach may like. He's somebody somewhere is looking at tape like, yo, I can win with that. I
For
would like
sure.
to. I can win with that. Let's not act
He
like.
got quality intangibles, bro. He's a guy that just completed his rookie season. There will be no quarterback in the history of football that's a finished product after year one in the NFL. You know, I've been dismissed the whole fifth round narrative, but I've watched him play enough to make a decent opinion about. I see some legit like intangibles from Shador Sanders that would be attractive for any coach. And then when we talk about some of these candidates, like if y'all go to my Twitter page, I put my list of candidates out there. When I do my Ultimate 216 show on Wednesday, I do a deep dive into why this is just my initial list. But some of these guys that's on my list, a Joe Brady, for example, right? A guy who kind of like made his ranks at LSU before he entered the NFL. We talk about the landscape of where we are now with the quarterback position and how they play in college and what the philosophy is in college and all that stuff. And you notice that you're trying to find as many young, innovative offensive minds that can really mesh with this new era of quarterback based on how they go about preparing quarterbacks at the collegiate level. And so there is very, very likely that a young offensive coordinator who might be next in line for a head coaching job might look at Shador Sanders and say, man, I can win with that. I can run with that. Like, give me that. Let me see what I can do with it. Right. Just because there are starting to be more and more similarities and parallels to the college game and the NFL game. And when you look at this upcoming off season, I think a lot of us will agree you're not going to see anything in free agency or in the draft that is light years ahead of what you have in Shador Sanders right now. So why not get somebody in here who, if they want to, look at Shador Sanders, got a solid plan on how to develop Shador Sanders and see what you can do with it.
As a matter of fact, if you are, make sure you follow on that at Earl the Pearl _ 216. Good follow over on Twitter. Make sure you
Y'all tell me
follow.
what y'all think of that list, man, when y'all go check it out.
Yeah, make sure at Earl the Pearl _ 216. Follow on Twitter. Let's see. What would happen to Dion to be a new head coach? Would 12 shine or sputter out? That I'm gonna tell you what. A lot of people ask that. Coach Prime, I feel like Coach Prime don't want no parts of that. At this point, Coach Prime done went through some health issues. And at this point, you got to think about it in terms of how draining it was just to even talk about the conversation with Shador Sanders. Can you imagine, Earl, what that conversation is like with Prime and him in the same city? Like, I thought it was a big step, the fact that we even got to a point where we were like, hey, Coach Prime is gonna be in the box and suite on the field, and it didn't cause a riot, guys. I don't think Coach Prime wants no parts of that.
So every time I hear the OG, triple OG, NFL Hall of Famer, Coach Prime be brought up as a potential head coaching candidate for the Cleveland Browns, I kind of laugh and shrug it off because, I know people won't mean no harm. They just giving their opinion. But man, if he ain't had no interest in the Dallas Cowboys head coaching job, why in the hell would he have interest in the Cleveland Browns head coaching job? I don't know Deion Sanders personally. I'm a huge fan of his game, still a huge fan of who he is as a man, but he gives this real old school vibe to him. He got this level of seriousness to him that, only people born in the 50s and 60s come with and raised by people that was born in the 40s come with, right? And the point that I'm making is where he is on a collegiate level, I think that his gifts from God can better serve those athletes than what they do on an
Facts.
NFL level. It's kind of hard to get somebody that's 30 plus years old making millions and millions of dollars to buy into this old school way of Dion goes about handling his business. And I think that he has done a great job of building character in young men in his program that might not make it to the NFL, but because of the time that they spent with Dion, they can go on and be successful in a career that might not even be related to sports whatsoever. And so I think that sometimes when you choose to go coach at the collegiate level, you trying to contribute to just more to the game. And we
Right.
hear Dion talk all the time about being a God-fearing man, about being a man that cares about the youth and developing his youth. And sometimes like your calling and why you are placed in certain areas be a lot deeper than just what the main thing is. Not that the main thing isn't important, but it's just not the only thing.
Facts. I think, and you got to also look at the time you are in your life. I think, and it's important. Like sometimes I feel like this is the first time Shador has ever been outside of the process in football, learning how to do it without his dad to a certain extent. So I think there's a learning curve for him as well. So Renee saying 5,000. Shador needs to leave Cleveland. Been watching Shador play for years. Never seen him look so depleted. Part of this, I believe, the Cleveland culture and the quarterback games for this year. You know what I say, Renee? I always, every time people say that, I always respectfully decline that he's not going to go anywhere, is because that's what the fire is. I think, a lot of people don't understand. I am here because, I'm a product of who I am today because of the trials I went through. Earl is here today because of the trials he went through. Shador Sanders will be a better person, a better quarterback, a better human being for the trials that he has to go through. And you just can't walk out of trials when it gets easy. That's just
Yo,
ain't what it is.
somebody asks me all the time, Earl, why do you always equate everything to pain, hardship, and just adversity? I don't know nobody who's ever become successful or great at anything without experiencing any of that. Trials and tribulations come to test us and build us as people, right? And if you are somebody that's a believer, like put it to you this way. A lot of y'all that watch G know, like, man, I'm a huge Shador fan. I'm a Shador Sanders supporter. And there have been media members who might have an agenda or a narrative, and they post it out there. And then the people that's here for Shador, they kind of go crazy. And then you got some media members, they feel the need to go crazy right back at them. I don't never feel the need to kick and scream because God said it's already done. So if I'm a believer, just like you a believer, why am I kicking and screaming about something that I know it's already done? Like sometimes, like the sense of just like the louder we are, sometimes I feel like people think that they hear us more, when sometimes they probably hear us less. And so sometimes you just got to sit back and let things like take its own course and play itself out. I think that Shador Sanders is a young adult that is learning how to be an NFL quarterback, but he's also transitioning into what it's like to be a grown man. And G, you notice we don't even really start clicking as men until we hit our 30s. And so
Man.
to see him to go through a lot of first, not only in his football career, but in his life. This is a young dude, man. He away from family on a more consistent basis than he's ever been. He's facing different hardships and adversities than he's ever faced before in his life. And more often than not, I felt like he responded well. I felt like he responded in a way that shows, okay, this is a high character young man that's going to figure it out. So, I know some people who know him better than we do, love him more than we do, then watch him longer than we have. They hate the fact that he's here in Cleveland. But I've said this from the time that he arrived here. Cleveland needed that positive infusion of energy that Shador Sanders brings. For me, I'm thankful that he's here.
Couldn't say it better. The real Night King. Do y'all think about Pete Carroll as head coach? I'm cool. I'm cool on Pete Carroll. He about 75 or something. I'm cool on that. What are your thoughts on Pete Carroll? Nah, Earl ain't.
Nah.
Yeah, listen, he didn't answer. He answered too slow. No.
Nah, I ain't I'm cool on
Nah, I'm
Pete, man.
cool. I'm cool.
I'm
I'm cool.
cool
Miss
on Pete.
Bell completed a rookie season with no reps. I think you put the right thing, Miss Bell. Completed. And I think he came full circle with the way he played. You started the season with the Rams, and they said they weren't giving him opportunity to let him go down the field and finish the drive. I think he came full circle and was able to do that in Cincinnati, put him in perspective to do some things. So I would agree with that, Miss Bell. Mitch 6404. Hey, G Bush, Earl, you and Tyvis need to do a podcast. Y'all been listening to our conversations. You've been in my group chat, man. Listen, so we got I got
the phones be tapped, bro.
Yeah, phones is tapped. Like we got some ideas that we've been kicking around, man. We can't tell you right here because you know what I'm saying. We can't, you know what I'm saying, but we got some ideas. Can I give them a teaser? Yeah, we can give them a teaser. Yeah.
What's coming from us three? It's coming on an independent channel, and I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
Hey,
that's all I got for him.
That's all you got, man. Reverend BJ Nelson. Everybody, CP don't want part of the NFL. Nah, I don't want that. Some people don't want it. Let's go out and get Snoop Dogg.
Hey.
Snoop too busy. Snoop too busy doing stuff with Death Row.
Hey, cuz you over there missing that block. Now you know that can't be going down like that, man.
Hey, cuz.
I need 3,000 sea walks before you leave practice.
Hey, Cam Robinson wouldn't do too well under him, man. Stefan Bryant said, I think Eric Bieniemy would be a great fit. I watched him for multiple years with my nephew played in Kansas City. He's a hard-nosed but good for younger players. Eric Bieniemy, here, I think, you know, it's so funny. His name hasn't been, we talk to Darren about this all the time. His name is not mentioned a lot, which is a shame. Because I think he's one of the, you know, brightest minds. I also think he's a guy that ain't going to play no games with you. And, you know, it's just about him getting the opportunity. And I don't know if he's going to get it, because he interviewed a lot of different places, but I think Eric Bieniemy is a bright, very bright offensive mind.
I think he is a bright offensive mind as well, but I do pay attention to why the fact somebody like that has never been given the opportunity to really be the head coach of a team. I know a few people who have covered the Chiefs outside of Darren. Shout out to Darren, man, because that's where we get most of our information from. But you know, it's not like Pat Mahomes had the strongest endorsement for Eric Bieniemy as well. And so it might just be one of those situations to where maybe that's just not something that's in the long-term cards. But
or maybe, you know, maybe it's
real quick, issue. Man. I get the fans of the Ultimate Browns show my list. My list had Brian Flores on it, of course, the Vikings DC. This is in no order, by the way. Okay. Mike LaFleur, the Rams OC. Jeff Hafley, the Packers DC, Joe Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator, and Chris Shula, the Rams defensive coordinator. Not that offense or defense was in my mind, but I kind of want somebody that knows how to operate as a CEO. Not that I know any of that about these men. I think Brian Flores, he spent a lot of time with Bill Belichick, won some Super Bowls there in New England. He was a head coach before. I think you laid it out perfectly that he might have learned a lot from his first time around. I think a guy like Mike LaFleur, I was joking with Anthony earlier, I'll take any damn body from the Sean McVay coaching tree.
Use anybody. The janitor. You clean offices over there, you know, with McVay.
Jeff Hafley, I think he like 47 years old, spent some time as the Boston College head coach. You know, kind of got his NFL start with Kyle Shanahan. And I just think that's a guy that's another guy. He comes from a certain coaching tree that's intriguing to me. Chris Shula, the current Rams defensive coordinator, again, McVay tree, Joe Brady. You know, we were talking about Joe Brady. When we talk about coaches who might want Shedeur Sanders as his quarterback, the first name that always pops in my mind is a Joe Brady. And there will be other candidates. Again, this is just my initial list of guys that I thought about that was intriguing to me. And hopefully you get somebody who know how to build a strong culture, that know how to CEO this thing, that's willing to delegate, that know how to hire the right people, and have learned from being around quality coaches like Shanahan and like a McVay.
Prime too busy showing the youth how to know their worth, and that's the big problem. You can't keep holding us down. You can dig what I'm putting down. I will say Coach Prime is, you know, he's doing that. He has multiple endorsements, and right now he has a lovely relationship that is, you know, now public Hey, Coach, shout out to Coach Prime. Shout out to Mr. Prime. Ms. Nurse Fancy, we appreciate you. Just for sending the super chat. We appreciate you as well. The Real Night King is the show called the Three Kings Podcast. That's a nice name, man. That's a nice name. I don't know if it's copywritten, but that is a nice name, man. That's a dope name. Mitch 6404. Can't wait for it to drop. Y'all three, keep it G. Look, man,
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it, man. Well, we appreciate you guys, man. You never know where Earl, G. Bush, and especially the Ultimate Browns, where we will pull up. But if you want the fresh cut, I keep the Clippers with me. Earl, we appreciate you dropping in. Let them know where they can find you and what we got coming up on the horizon on the Ultimate 216.
Wednesday, 6 p.m., we're doing a live Ultimate 216 show for our first show of the year. Me and my homie Cecil Shorts the third. We're going to get busy on that show. Pause. Major pause moment right there. But you can follow me on Twitter at Earl of Pearl _216. Same thing on TikTok, Earl of Pearl 216. And on IG, I normally don't give people my IG. That's like my safe place to talk about other stuff or whatever y'all got it now. So I got a couple reels out there right now giving my opinion on why they kept Andrew Berry, why they moved on from Kevin Stefanski. But thanks y'all for having me in G. Bush's space right here, right now. Y'all know the vibes anytime y'all see me. Be great, spread love. Being great come with a price. Spreading love is priceless.
All right, we'll catch y'all later. We appreciate y'all. Have a good rest of your night. And as always, we always say it, go Browns.